Okay, here we are with another vintage cube right off the bat. Like nothing super powerful here. First pick cards in my estimation. Finale, Leovold. These can all be wheeled. These can all be like Dazed Wasteland, Leovold, Finale. Everything else I've seen wheel 1,000 times. I go Wasteland. I've yet to do the land destruction deck, so I'm like, hey, let's try that. Let's see if we can make that happen. So here we go. Things you'd be looking for in the land destruction deck. You can't really do it with just Wasteland. You really need... So here, once again, the powerful cards, there's a lot. Upheaval, great. Cultivate, decent. Signet's always okay. And then Lily and Coercive Portal. Everything else will probably has a chance of wheeling. Not 8 cards will not wheel, or 7 of these cards will not wheel. But those are the 4 cards that I think are early picks. And now I'm like, well, maybe I grab Upheaval could go with a land deck, but I grab Lily because if I'm removing your land resources and then removing your hand resources, then when you finally do get lands, you have to really pick and choose if you want to keep lands or so. It makes the game a lot more difficult. So now I'm like, okay, I see Grave Titan. I could go Reanimator again. But instead, I think maybe I'll go value. I'll grab this Fallen Shinobi and try to do maybe like a value black deck. Maybe even add try to add black, blue, and maybe green, and do Crucible, Reanimate, Excavator, hope to get Strip Mine. Yeah, so the reason why you can't do the land destruction deck with just Wasteland is some decks don't run non-basic. So here, there's a fetch land, which does work if I'm going Crucible, Reanimate. There's Opposition, Charter Course, which is a good draw spell, goes with the Shinobi, and it's a Reanimate enabler. Then there's just Duress as like value, and so I think once again, because I'm going value black, I go Duress, and then here there's Crater Hoof. I'm not playing green, but it's worth looking at the good cards. Mindslaver, but that's really only if you're playing to cheat it out somehow. Necromancy, of course. Rotting Register, which is a great beater, and it's a discard enabler, and then Spellseeker. And I see the Necromancy, I'm like, okay, fine. Like, it's too, like, yeah, and then it's like, and then you get the Pooch Shrimp, and I'm like, well, once again, I'm probably valuing these cards too highly, but I do win this draft, so who's valuing what too highly? I mean, I didn't want to draft Reanimator this time. I try not to, just because it is my default. Other cards I could have picked here. I could have gone for Ancestral Vision, Toxic Deluge, but I go for the Imp. I feel like the universe is handing me the Reanimate deck, so like, meh. Also, Putrid Imp, not so bad with the Fallen Shinobi because you can fly it up, and then it gives a basically, in quotations, unblockable thing that the Shinobi can ninjutsu up. So what am I looking for now? I'm looking for a big... I just clicked as if I could reorder the cards in the video that I'm rewatching. William, you dumb. So we're waiting, and we're waiting. This whole draft does not take that long, so it will... this whole video is 52 minutes, so I think I have yet again another speedrun. So here... it's just Massacre Worm. It's a decent Reanimate target. Maybe there's O-Stone. Mastermind's Acquisition. I don't think I've ever seen it played in Vintage Cube. It's not terrible. I just don't think... I think it's too expensive. So here, there's Eternal Witness, but I get Bizarre. It could also work with the land deck, as in you can throw your lands in your graveyard and then Crucible them back in. And it is a way to both draw more cards and get Reanimating. So here, I go Bitter Blossom. It's a good value black card. Agadeem's Awakening, I don't think has ever been played in Vintage Cube. I did see an opponent play one. They're playing blue-black, like, small creatures, like Snapcaster and the... a blue and a black, two Thief of Sanity, stuff like that, and they actually had a decent Agadeem go off for a 2, 3, and 4. I think Venser was their other thing, and I was so excited. I ended up counterspelling it because that was the deck that I had, but for a second there, I was like, ooh, Agadeem's almost did something. Almost. But here we go. I think Sphinx is a better reanimate target than Ashen Rider. Ashen Rider does remove one thing, but I don't balls. There's so many times I've Ashen Ridered and still gotten run over. Sphinx, because of the life gain, is better against aggression decks. Tends to be. I'm not gonna say it always is. Also, it kills one turn faster, and it doesn't tap to attack. Like, yeah. So now Recurring Nightmare. I have enough potential creatures with Bitter Blossom and Putrid Imp. I am debating this Charter Course too, but I'm like, you know what? I don't usually do Recurring Nightmare. I don't usually, because it is a slightly different deck. There are nuances because you need a creature in play. So I'm like, hey, whatever. Let's do Recurring Nightmare. Let's do it. I don't have, there are only like 6 good Reanimate spells. So if you're going to base your deck around Reanimate, the idea, you really need to value them highly. Now I'm just grabbing the draft chaff. And look, hey, Mastermind's Acquisition. So here, there's Mystical Tutor, there's Polluted Delta. I just go for Dark Ritual. The potential of Dark Ritual Liliana, first turn, like, Putrid Imp, and then maybe if I have Exhume. There's all sorts of broken starts if you have Dark Ritual. It's like 2/3 of a Black Lotus. I mean, it's like a Black Lotus, but you have to pay him. You all get it. It's almost a Black Lotus. So here, there's Frantic Search, which is like it's like almost a free card in your deck. It like makes your deck like basically 38 cards. It's a Reanimate enabler. Technically, if you really needed to, you could Bazaar Frantic Search, untap 2 mana producing lands, and the Bazaar again after the Frantic Search, even though you be down so many cards. Ooh. At this point, I'm planning to play blue, but I'm also like, maybe I don't play blue. There's only 2. So here, Time Twister, I'm not looking to shuffle my graveyard, and I am not looking to give my opponent 7 cards. I want to find specific things. So Vamp Tutor is my jam. Inquisition hurts to pass up. Memory Jar wouldn't be so bad either, but yeah, you go for the Vamp. Now I have like a first turn, like Dark Ritual, Duress, Putrid Imp, Vamp Tutor. Get either the big creature or the Reanimate spell, and have, yeah, there's just so much. So here, I just grabbed the Prowler. So there is the Reanimate Excavator, which I'd be like, maybe I force it if I had Strip Mine, not Wasteland. Because if I happen to get Entomb, you can also Entomb the Strip Mine and blah, blah. So here, it's just Iona. As you will see in a second, Iona is one of the best Reanimate targets. Hands down. There are many situations when Iona is the only Reanimate target that won't lose the game for you. Now I have a decision between the Emrakul, the Optheomancer, and Yawgmoth's. Yawgmoth's is not really my jam. I'm throwing big things in my graveyard. I'm not going to be able to cast them. Emrakul, not the best Reanimate, not the worst. I grabbed the Optheomancer because I have the Recurring Nightmare. Optheomancer makes like infinite creatures to sack to Recurring Nightmare, and it is so powerful against non-red aggro matchups. I get the Exhume. Otherwise, I could have taken the Damnation. I say non-red aggro matchups because red will just like bolt your Optheomancer. You'll still get a free 1/1 Death Touch usually, unless they do it at the end of your turn when you play it. So you might need to be judicious when you play it. But y'all get the idea. Here, I don't know. Nothing really for me. I almost take the Avenger just because, like, well, I guess this is something you can reanimate. I am light on reanimate things. I kind of have 3 things. I grabbed the Cabal Ritual just because it's like, it can make me do a turn 2 Liliana or a turn 2 Putrid Imp Exhume, etc., etc. The little bit helps a lot. And then there's Lotus Bloom. Inquisition, I love that as a way to check if the coast is clear, and then B, if not, maybe make the coast clear. Also, I have some counterplay against like a second. So I grabbed the Reanimate. Somewhere out there is a Strip Mine, and whoever has that Strip Mine, if they pass that Reanimate, they better be like mono red or mono white. So, Null Priest is technically a reanimate thing, and it's better in the Recurring Nightmare deck because it sticks around and is a creature. So here, nothing really for me. Maybe the Relic to make sure my opponent doesn't have an Exhume target. Maybe Rakdos. But it's like, Lily is technically a way to put a big creature in your graveyard and a reanimate thing. It's just Griselbrand. Griselbrand is probably one of the second best reanimate targets because it allows you to refill your hand and potentially reanimate again. Also, the life link is good against aggro, and in a big spot where I have like Dark Rituals and Lotus Blooms and Cabal Rituals, it's feasible that it's cast like 1 in a million games, but spoiler alert, keep watching. Here, there's the Signet, there's the Dynamo, there's Valky, but Bribery ends games, and if I'm going to be playing any blue, I'ma want that Bribery. Mama wants the Bribery. So, Thoughtseize is amazing, but Entomb is one of the best fat creature to graveyard enablers. And now I have the first turn Dark Ritual Entomb Exhume, or first ritual first turn Dark Ritual Entomb. No, I don't. I almost. So I'm not big on children, believe it or not, because like with Entomb, you're finding one. There we go. So there's also Hymn to Tarak, but I get my Reanimate. So like I was saying, this first turn Entomb Reanimate. I know I drafted a Reanimate, so I kind of spoiled it on that one. Sorry. I grab on Burial Rites. I'd rather that than the Phyrexian Rager. Phyrexian Rager is poopy magoopy. Although in the Recurring Nightmare deck is one of the places where you might play it because it leaves a body to sack for your big bodies. So, I have enough playables. I maybe I should have gotten Hero's Downfall as some sort of control. Through the Breach and Deceiver Exarch. Oh, no one is playing blue-red combo in this deck. And then Courser is a great green. Like, it's worth looking at these holes later in the pack. Because if this was pack 1 or 2, you'd be able to diagnose the draft. Like, at the end, it's either this one or an earlier draft I did today. There were a bunch of cards at the end that I was like, oh, I guess I should have played that deck. Gonti... Commit to Memory is great, but I don't want it for this deck. Oath is actually not... Oath is a contender. I'm not going to play Gonti. I'm not going to play anything... Once again, I make glass cannons in Vintage Cube. I win or you lose. I mean... I win or I lose real fast, but you're going to have an answer. And if you don't have an answer, if you haven't drawn perfectly, then I win. So Phantasmal Image, technically playable in Reanimate, but, 3 of my Reanimate targets are, so Silverblade Paladin, great white card, and the Forge Master is a great artifact enabler. So whoever has Blightsteel and Tinker probably missed out. Council's Judgment. Oh yeah, so this is the one. So I'm like, there's a good white deck. There's a pocket of white where you're getting Council's Judgment second to last. It deals with literally anything. Inkwell Leviathan, no problem. Progenitus, goodbye. Any planes like Hexdrink fully leveled Hexdrinker. It's one of the only ways. So I decided not to play blue. I feel like having, especially because I have these Dark Rituals and things, and all these 1 mana black that's exactly a black, I'm like, I'll be better off if I stick to one color, especially because playing this Bazaar, and I am going to play this Wasteland. So taking out all the things I might sideboard, Bitter Blossom, Ophiomancer, I'm like, maybe I sideboard these things. I'm thinking about this Fallen Shinobi as a Reanimate target now, but I'm like, it's kind of weak as a Reanimate target, because not only do you have to get it in play, but you have to get it into combat and have it hit the opponent. It's a lot to ask. It's a lot to ask from your Reanimate thing. You want them to die now. Die now. Die. So I get rid of it, and I go, yeah, here we go. I can play 18 lands. 2 of them will be functional lands, the Wasteland and the Bazaar, which doesn't actually make mana. I'll still have 17 mana producer sources. I'll also have some rituals. I'll be a little glutted. Okay, let me speed up the playback speed now that we've gotten to the real part of the draft. I'll be a little overly landed up, but I think that's fine. I think I'm playing as all the amazing playables that I have, and then I just want the rest of the deck to be as consistent as possible. I.e., not have to mulligan because of lands. Especially because if you're on the draw, one of the legitimate ways to enable something in your graveyard is to draw up to 8 on your first turn, don't play anything, and then discard. And if you've mulliganed, that line is no longer available to you. So this is interesting to me. I don't really have a way to get Griselbrand in the graveyard or a creature to sack it, but I have 3 rituals between the Lotus Petal, the Cabal, and the Dark Ritual. So I'm like, am I gonna hard cast Griselbrand? They play green, which isn't slow, but it's one of the slowers. Turns like 4/5. So now I'm thinking like, ooh, I get one of the ramp spells. 1 second. Let me just show you what. I'm about to show you what they have when I bring up there. So, this was their only source of blue, so I didn't grab the Hydroid Krasis because I'm like, oh, it'll take them a while to cast it for anything significant. I'm just chilling. 9 Recurring Nightmare, just in case I have some weird, like, if I draw Putrid Imp or Iona's Prowler, I can immediately get Griselbrand. That will be worth it. They don't do anything, and then here is the magic turn where I get to hard cast a Gris. So here's the thing I'm deciding. Do I just cast the Griselbrand, or do I Dark Ritual? Then I will have 2 mana floating, and I might be able to, like, Entomb Reanimate, or do some other things, but I won't have as many resources my next turn when I... because I will have used my Dark Ritual. I decided to go for it. Yeah, and they just concede. So, Griselbrand does work. But, I could have drawn, like, Iona's Prowler and a big creature, play the Prowler, discard the creature to the Prowler, sack the Prowler to the Recurring Nightmare that I already had in play. And if it was Iona, it would have shut the game down. So, I think it is worth it to do as much as I could that turn, because I'm basically about to draw 14. I'll be set for the game as long as I survive to my next turn. In most circumstances. There's always cool things that happen in Vintage Cube. So here we go. Just waiting for my opponent to mulligan, or to sideboard. What is this called? I played this game before. Can't keep this hand. Too much missing. Here, there's this weird thing of, like, I can vamp on turn 1, but I'm missing 2 pieces of the combo, both the Reanimate spell and the big creature. So there's a draft, the time taking turns draft. I'll link in the video at the end of this, where I'm like, oh, I know exactly what my Reanimate opponent's doing. I know exactly the 3 pieces of the combo, what they're missing, and it's because of situations like this that I've been in that I know that so well. So they channel. I figure it's game over. I'm like, oh no, what are they doing? They tap blue, and so I'm like, ooh, they're Hydroid Crasising. And sure enough, which isn't necessarily reassuring, it's not an Emrakul, so like the game's not over, but like it's over. That is a 10/10 flyer, and they are drawing 5 cards. So then they're still tapping. They're now lapping. And then a Sundering Titan. Technically, I'm still alive. What I would need to get is... and then they play Relic, and I'm like, nope, no longer alive! So I need to do something this turn. Otherwise, I'm guessing they just leave Relic up, and I draw nothing. I could have fought it, hoping my opponent would do it dumb, but my guess is they just attack with their fatty. So here, boop, 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 pause. Here, about that last game, if they were a smart opponent, which you should always assume your opponent is, if it was a competitive play, I wouldn't have conceded. But since it's this like piddly draft, okay. Anyways, they probably attack with their big creatures, leave their mana up to Relic, and so I didn't have a chance. I wouldn't have a chance to reanimate. So with this, what am I hoping to do? So what I can do is I can first turn duress them, see if the coast is clear, see what I draw. And then, once again, I'm waiting for the other 2 pieces of the combo. A Reanimate spell and a discard spell. So I could have waited a turn and discarded the Iona, the 8 card way. But when you're on the draw, when you're on the play, like... Which is a reason to like maybe even decide to be on the draw in cube, but then if you mulligan, you're like, well, no, I'm on the draw for no reason. Ah! They search for their tomorrow, they find their tomorrow, and now they got the noblest of hierarchs. And now I'm like, what do I get? So the thing that I get, I go for the Bazaar because the Bazaar is both a way to discard like one of the three pieces of the combo, and it helps me find the third piece that I'm missing, the Reanimate spell. I have two fatties and two good ones in this matchup. I, of course, find a Necromancy, and now I'm thinking, okay, I don't know what blue things they have, but usually against mono green, Iona, wins like that. So I could get the Sphinx, but there's a chance they play a bunch of things and they go around the Sphinx with Craterhoof. So I see a bunch of expensive things, and then I just take their first turn play. I need to draw or reanimate things, so I'm like, okay, now I have Griselbrand in the graveyard. Now I am just looking for Exhume, Reanimate, something of that nature. Hey, look, I find something. I decide not to Bazaar again. I'll play Bitter Blossoms for some value. Luckily, I took a mana source from them, so they can't plow me under. The game would be oh so hard if they could have plow under, which they would have had an extra mana. And then now I can once again I'm Cabal Ritualing before because I might be able to do something with this Griselbrand. So I can now duress them and see what I might need. First I discard this Iona, just in case I have Reanimate. I get rid of the plow under. And now I'm sitting pretty good, really. Yep, game over. Griselbrand does that. I could have drawn another 7 with Griselbrand, but like sometimes you gotta be aware about that. So this is actually a second turn Reanimate. I could have. Yeah, I'm thinking of like all these things. Like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Do I do this? Do I do this? But no. I entomb. I chill. I Inquisition just to be sure. You have Fire and Ice, and I'm like, what? Of course So here's an argument. I know they have Fire and Ice in their hands, so they obviously have some red and some blue cards, or maybe they just have it for the fireside. Fireside chat. But I could have gotten Griselbrand and then hope to draw on and then maybe get another and then maybe get Iona that way. But like I've done that before, especially when you're specifically reanimating and you can't draw as many things with Griselbrand. It can be dangerous. So I do go for the Iona. I'm not 100% sure that's right in most of the games, but I feel like from what I saw, it'll be good. So, 1 second. Let me go back to that first hand and explain why I mulligan. No. Okay. Yeah, there's nothing here. I can't do anything with this hand. I'm missing 2 pieces of the combo. Here, it's a first turn Exhume, second turn, or first turn Entomb, second turn Exhume. Get rid of the Massacre Worm. I could discard it with the Rotting Regisaur, but I plan on dropping the Regisaur after. So this is important. I'm dropping the Regisaur after I Exhume. So I plan to already have used all my Reanimate things by the time the Regisaur hits. So it doesn't matter that I could discard the Massacre Worm to it. So my opponent could have Mana Tithe, in which case I could have just really pooped myself. There's some argument to duressing first. If this was a super competitive tournament, I might have duressed first, and then it would have stalled my whole combo. But like here, I might just go for it. They could still have Mana Tithe, although I think if they have it, you play it on the Exhume, because you don't know if I have Reanimate, if I have Exhume, you don't know what I potentially have. So I own a white, and unless they play another color, which they haven't, I'm like, that's game. This is game. What do they have? Like, this is game. Are you kidding me? You have 2 white mana. What are you doing, opponent? This is game. And then I Regisaur, which is a good beater. They're dead next turn. That's a 4th turn kill. So this is fine. I have Duress. Bitter Blossom can stall the game out until I can Regisaur, discard the Griselbrand. Liliana can potentially... So they get a 2-1 for 1 that makes 1-1s. I'm like, whoa, that's a nightmare for Lily. And in their hand... so here's the thing. My Polgan mulligan down to 5, but against me, really good 5 cards. Really, really good 5 cards. If I can reanimate this Gris, I still win. It's going to be hard for them to fight against that. But for a mulligan to 5, it's like, whoo, just collapse. So they play the Selfless Spirit instead of making a 1-1. I kind of believe that's true. But I'm like, hey, I got Bitter Blossom tokens. I can block you forever. Here's a weird thing. They don't attack with their Mutavault. I don't... Oh, because they want to make a 1-1. Okay, I agree with that, actually. That's a smart. I was about to call shade on them. So here, I just Regisaur. It's another blocker. It'll allow me to freely discard this Griselbrand. Next turn, I'm planning to Inquisition Lily. And then, what? Hero. Oh, boy. I am fully dead now. Unless I can reanimate this Griselbrand. Specifically because of the Selfless Spirit. If it wasn't because of the Selfless Spirit, I could live. I could block with Regisaur. They only get one mighty Blade Holt turn. But because of the Selfless Spirit, the Spirit being so selfless... They get 2 attacks with a hero, and they're just going to go way too wide for me. Like, if I draw a Griselbrand, or if I can draw a Reanimate spell next turn, that's my only way out. Otherwise, it's just, they go too wide, too furious. They order, so you want to put the Battlecry trigger on the stack first, so that the make the tokens creatures is on top. You make the tokens, and then the tokens get bigger. Don't know why they didn't attack with their Mutavault. They're going to play... Oh, they play at a Donto. That was, once again, correct. I'm trying to throw shade at them. My opponent's doing everything correct. And now if I don't draw Reanimate, and I don't... I'm just dead. They have way too many attackers. They don't even have to... Even if they make a mistake with the Battlecry trigger, I still die. So I'm like, okay, I trust that my opponent knows what they are doing. I give them the benefit of the doubt. You know, they mulliganed down to 5, and it was a very smart 5 that they kept. I mean, it beat me. Their 7 before didn't beat me, and their 7 here doesn't beat me either. So I'm thinking, like, what do I Vamp Tutor? And I'm so dumb. It is Entomb. I Vamp Tutor for Entomb. I'm thinking, like, do I get the big thing, and then I discard it to Lily, and then I blah, blah, blah. So they tap out. I know the coast is clear. I'm going for Entomb. And here's the thing. If you already had the Entomb in your hand, you should Entomb on their turn. There's a very small chance that you draw the Iona or the one creature you want to discard if you already have the Entomb in your hand. So you don't want to draw your card. There are some times when, you know, it's like I need to play Natural Order next turn, and then you draw Progenitus next turn, and you can't Natural Order into it. It's the same situation, so remove that as a variable. I knew I was drawing the Entomb because of the Vamp Tutor, so it's not an issue here. So I go for Iona, I get the Iona, and now I'm like, do they plan on winning with Sword of Fire and Ice? Like, what artifacts do they have? Oblivion Stone? I don't know. I know they have Mutavault as a creature that they can attack with, but I just get rid of their creature so they don't have a vehicle for equipment. I attack them, and now I got them in 2 turns, and I have Lily back up. Lily won't help with Mutavault, but Mutavault will only be able to attack once. So they'd have to, like, play Mutavault, and then, like, even if they had, like, GT Mutavault, they wouldn't have enough mana to activate the vault and equip. So I was a little worried that they might have another color, like have a black mana and have an Animate Dead of their own and get my Shieldred. So if I really wanted to play all the angles, maybe I don't do that. But hey, there we go. A full draft in 30 minutes. Ooh, who does that? Where can you see that? So thank you so much. If you like this video, please actually like it on YouTube. It helps a lot. If you really liked it, please leave a comment. Lots of nice comments. I thank you all. For those, it means a lot. And if you really liked everything, please subscribe. This was Reanimate. This was my bread and butter. And in the outro, I will show that video, which is probably showing up right now, the video where I take a bunch of extra turns and I read a Reanimate opponent really well. So, bye everyone!